No, and I think it all just ties together, like castle law, crocodile, just everything in general you've been talking about. It just seems like there's an agenda to make everyone soft. And I think it just comes across from not just from the castle law, but taking away human rights. But in terms of the end game, like how does that benefit society when you got other countries who are just going to not like if we ever get invaded or like who's going to fight for our country in 100 years when all these laws have been put in place?
Yeah, Jack, you're absolutely right. They've completely softened a whole generation. Now, used to have a situation where people had some type of self-governance. They used to leave you alone up here in North Queensland. The police would leave you alone. The government would leave you alone. In general, you were left alone to self-govern yourself in North Queensland and probably other parts of Australia. I've just never lived there. If someone was bashing your sister, you and the cousins went around and sorted it out. Nothing to see here. You had a crocodile in the back creek that was trying to take your dog. You shot the bloody thing. You had some problem with someone owing you some money. You went over there with the bloke and you went and sorted it out. And that's how society functioned for a very long time, up until just only about 20 to 25 years ago where they started saying you can't do those things. You can't self-govern. Government can fix all your problems. Well, guess what? Now you've got a situation where police officers are spending 80% of their time on the beat sorting out domestic violence issues because people can't sort stuff out for themselves or the government's told them they can't. You've got situations where people are spending 4 to 5, 6 weeks trying to catch one crocodile. You know what that costs the government? It doesn't cost just the government, it costs the taxpayer. You should just be able to go down there for 30-30 and shoot that crocodile and solve your own problem on your farm. You've got all these issues that, like you said, we're not allowed to take on anymore. We're not allowed to look after ourselves. And it's softening a whole generation to, God help us. God help us if we're invaded. You won't have anyone that knows how to use a rifle. You won't know anyone that knows how to use their fist to bloody look after themselves and try and defend themselves against the evil out there. And you're going to have people that are going to be walking around bumping into each other, asking one question, once again, what's the government going to do for me?
Like all these people out here who are trying to pretty much soften us, like you just said. But we've got a history timeline where we showed that what worked leading up to, let's say, 2000 of actually people like handling situations themselves, like you said, and then all of a sudden there's a big switch. And there's no history to show that this actually will work, and we're literally the test subjects for it.
Well, if you have a look at how society is not very happy on how things are at the moment, there's general unrest out there. When people talk about politics at the moment, they're angry.
Yeah.
And it's because they don't like the way the system has turned out and they don't like the direction people are heading in or governments are trying to push us in. So I feel like there is a bit of a pendulum swing coming back because it doesn't matter if it's youth crime or what's going on across the whole state. People aren't happy with what's going on, and whether it's climate change stuff that's been rammed down our throat, we're looking at the costs of that right now every time we open our power bill. We don't want a government that's going to subsidise things constantly. We want a government who's going to manage things so they're cheap continuously, not just throw little sugar hits at things to try and mop up their mistakes in the first place.
And yeah, like that's why what you just said, how the pendulum swing's happening right now, and that's probably up to our generation to actually enforce that. Because like you said, if they're just going to keep this new generation coming soft, do you think if it doesn't happen now, is there a possibility that they will have full control? And
I'm not doing any of this because of the life that I want to create for myself. It's the life I want to create for the generations that will come behind us. And people keep saying, why did you join the KAP? And, have a look at some of the stuff Robbie Cutter's put in around the blue cards. So have a look at the stuff Robbie Cutter's put in regards to, schooling in Western Queensland. Have a look at the stuff Shane Canute's been putting in about the crocodiles. I've been putting in about castle law. If we weren't talking and fighting on these topics or fighting for these topics, which are important to a lot of people, it would be completely barren from the conversation in Queensland Parliament right now, because you've got Liberal wouldn't be bringing it up, Labor surely wouldn't be bringing it up as well. So people say, why do you need the KAP in Queensland Parliament? There's your demonstration right there. If there's not an alternative voice there in Parliament, and a strong alternative voice, that's why we're pushing with strong candidates coming into the state election. Dwayne Amos up there in Cook. We've got Margie Ryder here in Townsville. We've got Michael Pugh in Mundingburra. Those are the kind of strong voices you want in Queensland Parliament, so that the agenda does get an opportunity to be heard and the pendulum does get to swing back for a younger generation.
Yeah. And do you think, like, just from this is for Robbie and Bob, but your time spent in Parliament, the agenda, is it they're too afraid to lose their power? Like, I'd imagine a lot of those people would agree with your views. Like, if you were to actually walk around the street, talk to all the people, but I think, is there a scared that they're going to lose, I guess, sponsors and higher up power just because their views?
I'll have a go. First, if we drive in the car now, hop in the car and drive all the way to Brisbane, everyone will agree with us until we hit about Gympie. And then we'll start finding a greater proportion of people that say, no, mate, the environment's much more important. Yeah. No, you got to save the crocodiles. No, you can't knock down a tree. Like, look at the concrete jungle we've got down here. And then you get right in the inner city of Brisbane and they think we're lunatics. Like, they laugh at us down there in Parliament. And literally, we were in Parliament the other week saying, look, you can laugh at it all you want down here, but everyone's actually laughing at you from out there. And there's just a different breed of people, and it's mainly in Brisbane. And the major parties keep chasing that vote because they're trying to win seats. That's where the majority of the seats are in Brisbane if you want to govern Queensland. So like you say, we call them a minority view here, but it's actually majority view in Brisbane. And that's what we're up against. And unfortunately, where it falls down, the whole system's fell down because you get the political scene up until recent times been dominated by Liberal and Labor. The KAP's now got 23% of Queensland. And the majority of North Queensland is held by KAP geographically now. So now we can push back against it, but everyone else just has to toe the party line. Liberal and Labor, they have to vote for climate change and they have to vote for crocodiles. They've voted against our crocodile bills twice now, Liberal and Labor. They've just got to stand up against this stuff because they're running with the mob down in Brisbane. And that's what we've got to break.
But do you even think these people, when you actually ask them, do they even know what climate change is?
It is so easy to beat them in arguments, and I'm not a smart person. Like, I don't close it, and I don't read all the books on bloody tree clearing or something, but let's just take tree clearing. We spent 4 or 5 days debating on it. And they'd say, I'll pick the number, it was like, they'd say 50,000 hectares is cleared trees a year in Queensland. Did you realize? And they just kept saying it over and over again. You say, all right, how many trees grew back? Oh, we don't know, we didn't count that. You say, so there could be more regrowth than... Well, we don't know. We haven't measured it. So, well, why are we even here debating then? Like, if you can't tell us that, you can just say things like that all the time on the reef, climate change, anything. They haven't got an answer. It is surprisingly so easy to defeat them in debates down there in Brisbane. But I don't know. They're just a mob. Like, a lot of young people just running with it and think it's fact. And it's a very hard thing to break. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, that's why we've considered our job so important. And a lot of this stuff, people don't relate to their day-to-day dramas, but it's got to be fought at some level because there's just madness, and as you say, it's decaying our culture, and people not even worried about sovereignty anymore, being able to produce food. They're shutting down all the commercial fishing. So we'll import fish from overseas, and we'll import it from the overfished Asian waters. No one seems to think that's a problem. They're all saying, no, we've got to go for UNESCO. They're telling us. Someone in Paris, in an office in Paris, is telling us to shut down our commercial net fishing. Just crazy stuff, mate. And someone's got to, even if nothing else in the history books, they show that some people are standing up against this madness in the Parliament. That'd be good enough.
Oh, 100%.
There's this saying: if you're a socialist at 20, you've got heart. If you're still a socialist by 30, you've got no brains. And I can understand that there's going to be a lot of young people watching this podcast, and I just want you to have a think about that. And I get the reason why socialism really ticks with some young people. It's focused at embedding that sort of ideology in someone who's maybe going through university or hasn't got a lot and likes the idea of sharing everything. And you got to bring the big corporates down, and you got to bring big business down, all that sort of stuff. But I think once you start realising, well, socialism on a grand scale doesn't work. You need to reward hard work. You need to reward people that are doing something productive for society. Yeah. And the fact is out there has never been so much opportunity for a young person in Australia. I tell everyone, all you got to do is turn up, do what you said you were going to do, interact well with your boss, have some good communication skills, and you'd be running the show in 3 years. There is so much opportunity out there for a young person. You just got to have a bit of go about yourself. And I don't say that in a negative way. There's plenty of young people out there that have plenty of guts and determination. Just want to see more of people understanding that if you utilise that guts and determination, you will succeed. Sitting there just waiting for government handouts or waiting for government to level the playing field, it will not work long term. And you need to make sure that you're doing what you can to lift yourself up and lift your own game.